Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hi.
another episode of Age of Geek, the podcast. They always make fun of me because I have to specify it's the podcast, but I don't want to confuse our dear listeners. And they think that I don't know. It's just a thing now. So,
yeah, because we've
welcome
got
to,
Age of Geek Media, and
yeah.
it's a two different things: the network and then the podcast namesake.
Yeah, so welcome to Age of Geek, the media. And suck it, Colin and Jake. We missed you. Wish you were here.
Wow. And so it begins.
Yes. I am Steph.
And I'm Marlee.
And we have Robert joining us today, which we always love, and he will be joining us a lot more. We're so excited to have him hop on with us on Age of Geek. And then we also have a guest host tonight. We have Sequoia joining us.
Hello.
Marlee and I have known Sequoia we were talking about this before we hopped on, like a hot minute, since before the pandemic.
Yeah,
and then
a few years.
Time turns into this weird wasteland during the pandemic.
It's like a wormhole or something.
Yes. So Sequoia, give yourself a little bit of an introduction for us.
Yeah, of course. So I am a general nerd person / podcaster. I have two shows. One is a Harry Potter fan fiction podcast where me and one of my best friends, we just like find the most ridiculous one-shots we can find that were published before 2008. So we're like nostalgia. This is like hardcore nostalgia fan fiction moment. And then I have another show which is a lot more relevant to our topic today, where my guest and I will take a romantic movie and we rewrite them as horror films.
I remember when you first when you first came up with that idea, and it's so creative, and I've never heard of something like that, and I just love it so much.
Thank you.
And it's always like so wonderfully clever and funny. So,
and what's the name of that one?
Yes, so that one is called But Make It Scary.
What are some of the movies you've done lately?
So lately, the last episode that came out was She's All That.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really, really good. My guest was from a show called Rom-Com Rewind. So that was really fun. And then lately with one of our friends, Ray, I did Romancing the Stone.
Oh, that's a throwback.
Yeah. Sometimes we throw it back. I mean, they're all over the place. Like sometimes we're doing like a Cinderella story, and sometimes we're doing,
I love that one.
The Philadelphia story, which is like literally in black and white. So it's any romantic movie. We're all over the place, but I like my pod to have my own podcast with no tonal consistency. That's what I'm looking for.
I love that journey for you.
You've come to the right place, though.
Yes. So we're talking about rom-coms today, which we feel is really fun because Valentine's Day is the day of the release today. Happy Valentine's Day to you all.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Will you guys be my Valentines?
Yes.
Of course.
I thought you'd never asked.
I don't know where I was going with that. I had a thought, but then it got sidetracked, and I don't even care.
I'll say, because I was, I think we kind of came up with this idea together a little bit, but I remembered thinking how, like, again, in honor of Valentine's Day, I'm like, rom-coms. I feel like they haven't made a good, solid rom-com in a really long time. And it also started too, I saw a preview for this new one that's coming out on Netflix called Your Place or Mine. And it has Reese Witherspoon and No.
Is it Ashton Kutcher?
Ashton Kutcher, thank you.
You're doing the
other one
right now.
The other one.
Interchangeable? I mean,
I
really,
wouldn't.
come on.
That's the other one.
Act like an Ashton Kutcher, interchangeable.
Ashton Kutcher is Batman. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I feel like she had the same floppy haircut at some point. But anyways, Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon are in this Netflix movie. And I just like, it seems like a really cute movie and very like of the tone like of these movies that we used to see in like the early 2000s. And I was like, that's when I had the thought, I'm like, wait a second. Why have I not seen like a preview or a movie like this in a really long time? And maybe I'm just oblivious. I don't know. Maybe I've been kind of in the Marvel superhero world and Star Wars and everything for a while. But at the same time, I'm like, we got to talk about this. Like, maybe, am I the only one who thinks that there is a fall of rom-coms? So that's why I wanted to, I brought it up with Steph and we were kind of talking about it and we wanted to bring on some friends to talk about it some more.
Assemble the panel.
Yes.
We will come up with.
Now, I just want you to realize that you've done something. So now that you brought up Ashton Kutcher and I've turned him into Batman, and I want Reese Witherspoon as Catwoman, and I want to see that romantic comedy. Whether they're actually playing it straight or not, I don't care.
Yes.
But Ashton Kutcher, Reese Witherspoon, Batman and Catwoman, hijinks ensue. I want to see this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yes.
I feel like
Totally
Reese
down.
could be like this really prissy, like cute Catwoman. Like
I'm fine with this.
yeah.
She's
I
great.
am
She would
totally fine
totally
with
pull it
this.
off. Yeah.
And he could be like a clueless Batman. It would be perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Like the chill
Let's-
playboy. He will be. You could have our Pats be Batman, and then Ashton Kutcher could be Bruce Wayne.
Oh.
Are they interchangeable as well?
No.
Non-
Not as much. Ashton Kutcher is not quite as
Nondescript
sparkly.
white men with dark hair.
I mean, to me, yes, they look exactly the same. But I mean, to most other people, probably not.
Oh my gosh.
You know, just like they're written in a different font. They're like they have no tonal consistency between the two of them.
We should write Netflix
I
with
think
our
we can make it
idea.
work. Let's do it.
Incredible.
Oh goodness. Anyway, yeah, no, I personally, and maybe I don't know if it's an opinion or if it's real, but I really do think that rom-coms are dead. And I think they died somewhere between 2010, 2012.
Okay, well, first I think we need to hit on some of our favorite, rom-coms of that era.
Okay, fine. Yes.
So I think
Of
someone
which
else could
era?
do it. Of like the early to like the golden year. I don't know who.
Okay, because
would we
now you
consider
have
the
to get
golden
into
age
what the golden age is.
of
because I
rom-coms
think
are. This
I
is now a
think that-
philosophy podcast. Welcome.
Wow.
Welcome to class.
Well, because do we include the 80s, like all the John Hughes films? Like, are those rom-coms?
I mean, and do
They
you even
are.
go as far back like Breakfast at Tiffany's?
you can go
Um,
as far back as the 50s to stuff like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Yeah.
Some like it hot.
Some like it hot. You go back
Yes.
to Marilyn Monroe, you're in rom-com territory.
Yeah. So I guess, when would be like, I guess a golden. Oh, Marlee. No. She is ready.
Wow. Game on.
I've got my
Just laugh.
notebook.
I will. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, now I can't see my notes because I'm like crying. No, for me, I mean, yes, because obviously there's a ton before in like 50s, 60s, 80s going on, all of that era. But like, and for me, it's like the 90s and like early 2000s. So I'm talking like Never Been Kissed, Drew Barrymore, 27 Dresses, Katherine Heigl, 13 Going on 30, The Proposal, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like those kind of like solid, or What Happens in Vegas. And hey, that's another Ashton Kutcher one. But like you have like those A-list actors who seem to always be in like the rom-coms. Like they are just written, like those actors are made to be in rom-coms, like Cameron Diaz, again, Katherine Heigl. So I feel like, and maybe it's just because they've gotten older, obviously since this time, and so they're not.
Yeah, romance dies once you hit 40. You're all right.
That's not exactly what I
Podcast
mean.
over. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yep, that's our conclusion. But no, because
And
like
boom.
that's kind of like usually it's like the 20s, early 30s is that time period of when we typically see these romantic stories happening. You know, we don't see like that many of like older people. I'm not saying
I'll
that
disagree. As an older person, I will disagree. I think that you've got.
Let's hear it.
I'm trying to remember now because I can't remember the name of it. Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
No,
Something's
Jack
Gotta
Nicholson.
Give.
Something's Gotta Give.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, you do have. I mean, there's. Yes, thank you. There's not as many because I think that a lot of people think, you know, romance dies at 40, and they're just kind of like, they don't expect to see older actors portraying kind of head in the clouds kind of love that sometimes, you know, just takes us by surprise. So I think that there is something out there. I think that we don't look at them quite as much because we kind of go, oh, my mom's gonna go see this movie, and you just kind of dismiss it.
Well, it makes me think of that. It's a Matthew McConaughey movie where they're trying to get him. Yeah, when they're trying to get him married.
Oh, Failure to Launch.
Failure to Launch.
Yeah. Yes, and then they have his parents who are like kind of like falling back in love because they're like ready to be empty nesters. So it is like it's kind of a fun little play on that because he's like falling in love and they're like, get out of the house, we want to do it like all the time. So yeah, it's like a good combination.
Yeah.
But I think that there is something to be said that there are some older ones, but I think they're not geared for younger audiences because there's certain life experiences that might come up in these movies that you know, people of a younger generation will be just kind of like, oh my god, they're just old, and why are they talking about this? And ew. So I think that you know, there's something. I think that they are out there. I just don't think that necessarily everyone is looking for that movie.
Right.
I think they're kind of targeted for you've had your club years, you've gone out and done this now. What, you know, who's cutting my lawn? Who's shoveling the snow? My back hurts. You know, who can relate to that?
And unfortunately,
and there are a number of them.
Robert, I think you're a little outnumbered here because I think we're all elder millennial girls. So yeah,
I totally own that.
That's why we wanted you to have your perspective as well. But yeah, we got hit with like the Hillary Duffs and the all of the
Jennifer Garner.
Yes. The almost like teen rom-coms as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure, but I mean, you know, I had, I guess you could call it the middle period of the golden age with Will Smith with Hitch, for example.
Oh, I love Hitch.
You know, and you know, there's movies like that. You know, you also get something that hits a middle ground, kind of like Stardust or Enchanted. I mean, Disney doing rom-coms.
I love those.
Those are both so good.
So I mean, there are, you know, there's things that kind of meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I will play elder statesman, and I'll try to remember to not tell anybody to cut their hair to get off my lawn. So you guys just go ahead with your potty casting and just do your thing.
Oh my gosh, Robert!
I
mean, was the first movie you saw in black and white?
Actually, it was a flip book.
Oh my gosh!
Were you afraid the train was going to hit you?
Yes, and we won't talk about when they started talking back at you, and you're just like, oh, like a top down. That's new.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I told you, you're trapped in here with me.
I do think we have to hit on 90s teen rom-coms though, because they're so hard to watch these days.
Yeah.
Really? I mean,
they're
which
so
ones are
mean
you
to each
talking about?
Well, you mentioned She's All That.
Sure, but I think that there's like the She's All That's, and then there's the 10 Things I Hate About Yous.
Right.
Oh,
also has some problematic.
Or what about Never Been Kissed?
Like bashing a teacher.
Never Been Kissed is one of the most problematic movies I've ever seen.
Right?
It's so good.
Yeah.
I love Drew Barrymore so much, but my gosh.
I know.
Yeah, it's something. It's something else.
Marlee got froze
and
like
I think
this.
we lost Marlee. That's like the perfect. That's perfect. You should
For the people who are watching the video play.
Oh, she's back. She's back.
She's back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing:
What
is like
was my face? I could hear you guys.
Now we're all doing it.
I don't know what's going on with my internet. It just keeps going like in and out. So I'm so sorry.
We love modern technology.
we do.
What were
we
you
do.
saying, Sequoia?
Yeah, okay, so I feel like the 90s, well, I feel like the 80s is really when you get the splitting off period where like the like teen rom-com becomes so prevalent, like 50s, 60s, 70s not as much. 80s you get Molly Ringwald, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, here we go. We're
Yeah.
in on like the teen rom-com. And that train has taken us pretty far here current, but that's where I see kind of like a divergence there. Because when you're talking about 90s rom-coms, yeah, you're talking about Clueless, you're talking about 10 Things I Hate About You, you're talking about She's All That, but you're also talking about Sleepless in Seattle, you're also talking
Yes.
about You've Got Mail, right?
Oh, Meg
And like
Ryan.
Meg and Tom forever, five ever. But yeah, so they're just like, it's they're subgenres in and of themselves, and then later you like more subgenres get introduced, right? Then you get your like rom-com sex comedy where you're like 40-year-old virgin, you're knocked up, you're that sort of thing, so like I think as more and more and more movies get made, there's more and more sort of subgenre to the genre. And as you pull those apart, it can seem like there are less of the thing. But maybe what you're looking for is that there is less of that specific subgenre that you have nostalgia for of the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. I
Totally.
think that like teen rom-coms, especially the older ones, are problematic, and we're veering away from that kind of story. Like even I can't. I mean, I guess Cinderella's story, but that involves like gaslight. So like I can't think of like kind of a teen, rom-com story that is not. And like sometimes you got to turn off your mind and just be like, I'm just going to enjoy this. I know that it is not encouraging this, not gonna let like my kids like do these things, but you know what? Let's go enjoy some Drew, some Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. So that's why.
To get back to Sequoia's point, though, I think that we did have. I mean, looking at the 50s, not 50s, sorry, 60s and 70s, you had things like Beach Blanket Bingo. You had Gidget, the original movie, not the TV series.
Moondoggie.
And they were rather prevalent, especially as summer movies, because all the kids were out of school, needed something to do, and they would just go to the theater and watch these movies of kids being kids according to what the studio thought they should look like. Which going back to your point, when you get to the 90s, it's again an older director doing what he thinks kids look, act, and sound like.
Yes.
In the 80s and 90s. And, some people got it right. John Hughes, sure, he kind of nailed that. But I mean, there were some you just kind of like, ooh, that was a choice that you made, and that was not a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have to look at rom-coms as they're all like wish fulfillment. So
Definitely.
they all are, kind of like what you were saying, Robert, what people think the audience will want to see. And so, you kind of do have to turn off, especially now, like that part in your brain that's like, oh, she should not be talking to her teacher that way. That's inappropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that landscape is also changing in a way that, like, when you make a rom-com, you really have to be so cognizant, of like where we are societally. And that can give way to a lot of great things, right? So we have a lot more queer romance. We have a lot more like stories about people of color. We have a lot more, we're in an era that's like coming off of your Love Simons, your Crazy Rich Asians, right?
Right.
Like, this right now, this should be the golden age of rom-coms. Like, we should be getting it right now. Because of the absolute, like, the breadth of storytelling that is available to us at this point. Whereas you look back to like the 70s and you're like, just Woody Allen? Like could we absolutely not though? That would be great.
Yeah, like these days, like the rom-com guys, the guys that we want, it's not going to be the Elvises, the Matthew McConaughey's. They're going to be the guys who like wear cardigans and go to therapy.
Yeah, and they're cute.
Yes, bye, Robert. Robert left. No, yeah, every rom-com lead is Harry Styles now, probably.
Yeah,
you know,
probably.
like
Well, and what's that one with okay, I'm gonna totally butcher this, but there's that one that came out with crap, who's the girl in Vampire Diaries? Nina Dobrev. Yes,
and
she was in a recent
she did a
movie.
Christmas rom-com. Are you talking about that one, or are you talking about a different one? The Christmas rom-com called Love Hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
I've seen it 3 times. 4 times?
Oh, okay.
3 times, 4
So
times.
you
I mean,
like
Going for 5.
was that good?
5, 6. Going 6.
Yeah, anybody gonna go up? Anybody gonna go?
Like, was that,
Yeah.
would you say that was a good rom-com? Like a good, you know, maybe like one for our era, especially for nowadays?
Here's the thing about Netflix.
I love it.
Go on.
I think that rom-com lives in a similar space, production quality wise, of something from the 90s that you would think of like She's All That, where like the acting is not very good. The script is kind of not very good, but it's like highly enjoyable.
So,
And
like,
yeah,
a higher budget Hallmark film.
yeah, Netflix is like rolling that rom-com out. And I really like that subgenre of rom-com that just sort of like exists, and I put it on in the background and I'm like, this is cute and I like it. It's not giving me, you know, what You've Got Mail or, you know, my When Harry Met Sally would give me. But it is like entertainment that I enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think a good point to bring up too is that there's been quite a shift in obviously we know that like it's all about streaming nowadays, and it has been for many years, even way before the pandemic. Obviously, you know, a lot more people were streaming and stuff because of the pandemic, but even before that, like
that's when our parents and our grandparents started getting streaming services.
Right?
Like, you
Like,
gotta.
I guess I
had
gotta
to-
hop on this train. It's
I
not
had
going
to
away.
I had to show my mom where the Netflix button was on the remote. Like, there's literally one that says that. Anyways, I
Good
love my mom.
daughter.
She's sweet. But no, like I think because we have so much more available to us with streaming, with these Netflix originals and whatnot, that is so easy to just like make them and have them be available. Whereas like before, we'd have to go to the movie theater, you know, to go see these, you know, like kind of what Robert touched on, like with these big summer movies, you know, like, because that's when they usually would release these kinds of movies, was either around Valentine's Day or in the summer as like a big summer feature.
Well, that's
And,
my
yeah.
question to you then is, do you see the fall of rom-coms as rom-coms not being theatrical releases anymore?
Yeah, I really actually do, because I think part of it too is like the advertising and whatnot, because we don't see the previews. Like I didn't know anything about this, like for example, Love Hard, until like after the fact, like after Christmas season, because I would have watched it during Christmas season. I don't really watch a lot of Christmas movies anyways, but so like we would get these previews because we were going to other movies, and so we'd see the previews for what was coming up. So we would see this cool looking movie, this funny action rom-com called This Means War, again starring Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, she's wonderful.
And Chris Pine
We
and
stand Reese.
what's
I'll speak
the other
collectively
one?
for all of us.
I
I can't
agree.
even remember. Who's the guy who played Bane?
Tom
Batman.
Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Tom
yeah.
Hardy, thank you. Yeah. So you got like all these like people and you're like, oh, I know them from other stuff and I love them. I gotta watch them in this rom-com. Like you need to see them in that version of movie and acting and everything. And so like, I don't know. I think part of it is maybe it's just we have too much now. And so it's easy for those rom-coms that come out on Hulu or Netflix or whatever to just kind of slide by.
Well, and you think of
I don't
some
know,
of
because I think
the.
that Netflix. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna. You think of some of the kind of rom-comish movies that have been released theatrically lately, like the Paradise Lost one with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum.
Lost
Yep.
City of Lost
There-
City.
Oh,
And then the other one,
Thor:
Which
Love
is
and Thunder.
Ticket to Paradise. You actually were
Yes,
combining the names
yes.
of two different ones.
with
yeah.
Julia Roberts and George Clooney. Like
Yeah.
those are kind of. I mean, I didn't go see them. I feel like
Mm.
they kind of flopped in the theaters. And then we have Titanic coming to screen, and I think people are actually going to see that. And that's 25 years old.
Now, despite me thinking it's the funniest movie of 1997, most people don't.
Yeah,
We've
not
discussed it.
necessarily a
We've
comedy.
discussed this. No, we've discussed this.
Marlee and I
And
bring
I am
the
in the
tissues,
minority
and
here.
Robert brings the popcorn.
I don't know. I think it's really funny when they keep going back into the ship over and over and over again. It's
Okay,
pretty
so the
funny.
really quick version of this, the reason why I think it's funny is there's the scene where, and Marlee knows where this is going. There's a scene where, the iceberg is hit, people trying to get off the boat. Guy climbs to the back of the boat to jump off. He times it, or so he thinks, and then hits the propeller, and you hear dang as he bounces off the propeller. And I'm just like, ah!
Robert
Had a
comes
lot
and
of people-
plays his laugh
Had a lot of
track.
people in the theater just kind of going, what is wrong with them? I'm like, did you not see that and hear that? That was comedy. Thank you, James Cameron.
He's a genius, Robert.
gosh.
Yes.
I'm just
He makes,
have no
he makes water
affinity for James
tentacles. He
Cameron,
makes,
to be fair.
aliens and flying planets, and he makes patang sounds in Titanic. Thank you, James Cameron.
Okay, real quick on the James Cameron thing. I found something interesting online that I wanted to read to you guys. So, another thing too that I think killed rom-coms a little bit is
James
that,
Cameron.
especially like
Screw that
movie
guy.
releases. Well, sort of, because like with the technical innovation of 2009's Avatar, like, and how it broke new ground in like what cinema could do, I feel like all of a sudden filmmakers are like, hey, look at these cool action movies we can do now or whatnot. Like, why are we making this rom-com over here just about some dumb high school kids in the same set and there's not really much to it when we could do this over here? And so I don't know. I just found this thing online. It came from thenationalnews.com. I don't know how reputable that is, but I thought that was an interesting point. Like maybe that shift kind of made those beloved rom-coms
Well, and
fall
what
off.
year did Iron Man come out? Because I feel like once Iron Man hit, we got those
2008.
yearly superhero movies.
2008.
Yeah.
Thank you, Disney. Thank you. Please keep them coming.
Yes, please. Me
I'm
too.
not going to complain about it, but also I'm going to complain about it. Yeah. That's the thing is like rom-coms, I don't know how much money they were making. Like, I think it'd probably be interesting to take a look back and see how rom-coms were doing in theaters versus the rest of the movie. Because like, if rom-coms aren't making enough money, they're not going to make them for theaters. They're not going to do it.
Mm-mm.
So
Which is one of the things I think is good about Netflix going and just doing their during 2000, I think it was 21, they did their 52 movies where they had like a new movie a week of different genres and everything. And one of those was Locked Down, which I'm not sure if they marketed necessarily as a romantic comedy, but it was with some serious dramatic overtones in it. But it was a Chiwetel Ejiofor and I want to say Anne Hathaway, and they went very topical with it, and they had it set as a couple in London during the beginning of the pandemic who have now hit that point of we're not sure if we're still staying together because we're driving each other crazy, and as their life just kind of spirals around themselves, they're stuck in the same house together because everybody's quarantining, and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And you're watching what becomes of their relationship, and I don't want to spoil what does and doesn't or doesn't happen. But it's an interesting look at the dynamic, and it's like it's touching because it is the romance there. You can see that they care for each other, but they also drive each other up a wall.
Yeah.
And then how does that progress, and where does it go from there? And I think that Netflix I have to give them credit. Not everything they put out was a hit. I mean, nothing, nobody has that 100% track record. But by the same token, they put a few things out that were really solid. And that was, for me, one of them. So if you have not seen it, I will recommend that. And I'd be curious to see what you think of it. From my older man's perspective.
Sorry, continue your thought.
No, just gonna say, but I think that streaming does give some of these things an outlet, like the Hallmark Channel, like you were mentioning earlier. I mean, they're just churning out, Christmas movie after Christmas. I mean, romantic Christmas movie after romantic Christmas movie. We're just like, okay, well, I guess it's that time of year. It's turkey's put away for Thanksgiving. It's Hallmark movie time. Let's go.
They gotta get all those big city women with their big jobs in the countryside. They gotta slow down their lives and bring.
They gotta stop and smell the roses. The
what you're saying is they're just retelling Green Acres. Got it.
Yes. Well, and I think with on the topic of Netflix, you gotta talk about Bridgerton, which isn't a movie but is a TV show, and so literally in books, romance is the number one selling genre, but I don't think it's marketed that way because people don't look at romance as real literature. For a lot of people don't. And I feel kind of the same way as romance in movies, where it's but it isn't James Bond or whatever. And so it's geared towards women. And I don't know if that sells as much as these big superheroes or these big action movies. And so it isn't geared towards as much. Did that make sense? Did that come out? Thought come out clearly?
Because with superhero movies, I mean, maybe stereotypically, I don't want to throw out too much like that, but kind of what you're saying, superhero movies do tend to go towards more of a male crowd, but it also captures a female crowd, whereas romance, mostly women, mostly a female crowd, so you're not really getting both of those like other genres maybe do.
And I think women are finally owning it. And that's why I brought up Bridgerton. It was so hot, so much sex, and people are like, is this too much? And the audience is like, no, please no, give us more. That episode 9, everyone knows what I'm talking about. We want that. Yes.
I think that you're right, though. I think that the superhero big blockbuster action movies are geared towards men in a lot of cases. And if we can find something that appeals to women that brings them in, oh great. Or if they come in with their boyfriend or husband, that's great. And I think that unfortunately a lot of studios have had that mindset where they're not saying we can do this with a female lead just as easily as with big hulking male lead, but
we can make the main character hot.
Yeah, but the thing is, romance, I mean, it's typically thought of as the softer sell, and it's not cool to go to the romance movie. I mean, my girlfriend wanted to go see it, or my wife wanted to go see it, and I just had to get dragged along because you can't go with the boys and go, yeah. So I saw it. They'd be like, dude, what? Man card, let's go. Which is unfortunate because we have for far too long in this country been told, boys don't cry, boys don't show emotion. There's something that's just not manly about doing that. And quite frankly, if it's a good story, it's a good story, period. Unfortunately, we have to get over that mental hurdle as a culture to hopefully see the resurgence or just the return of movies that aren't just I'm going to smash something to bits.
Right.
Right, but that also like there's sort of like an intersection between that like oh the softer thing scenario and also that like artistically we don't value laughter as much as we value tears.
Yeah.
So like if you make a movie and you want it to win an Oscar, everybody needs to cry, you know?
Yeah, like I
Right?
think of like Atonement, which is like one of the saddest movies of all time.
Right. So like a romantic tragedy is inevitably like thought of as more artistically valuable than a romantic comedy. So when you're
Mhm.
looking at like this intersection between like romance is soft and laughter isn't valuable, then you get like a piece of media that feels really not valuable to people.
Yeah. And I think there's been a couple actors. The one that comes to mind right now, Anna Faris, who talks about how comedy is actually like a harder way to act than a lot of drama is. And I think that that's not something that you hear very often either. But just you think that it'd be easy to just be chuckles all day long, but
Right.
real artistry can go into these types of work as well.
They're hard to write. They're hard. That's the other thing is like maybe another portion of like rom-coms like not happening as much or not being as good or whatever you know, hypothesis you want to put up about that is that they're absolutely so hard to write. And like you got to want to write them and like we have a history of like writer directors who have been like really smashing it with rom-coms forever. You know, you got like Nancy Meyers, you've got Gary Marshall, but like they're not really, you know, like you like there's no new generation of that. Those guys are kind of older now. There's no new generation of that. And maybe that's where you see some of the fall off.
Well, and I'm
Possible.
also I found this article just now about how like rom-coms, like because I was thinking like kind of what you were saying about like at the Oscars and like winning awards and whatever. And I'm looking at the 10 great romantic comedies that ruled the Oscars, and it's pretty much like there's one from the 30s and the 40s, 50s. Like it's really like there's really not that many. And like the one that has happened the most recent is Silver Linings Playbook. I don't know if I would have
I'm
classified that
not
as a
gonna call
romantic
that a
comedy,
comedy. Yeah. No.
I mean, just because you
Yeah,
put
so
quirky
I'm like,
Jennifer
that's
Lawrence
the
in
thing
it
is,
doesn't
like,
make it a
these-
comedy. But she's quirky,
yeah,
guys.
I think I saw that. I don't remember that movie as much, but I don't remember it being funny.
It's not. It's not funny.
It had funny bits.
Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper's on my list of guys that have perma-douche face. He just looks. I'm sorry, Bradley Cooper, if you listen to this. You just kind of look like the type of guy who would tell me to order a salad at dinner. Or
Oh my god. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that is
do
such a specific
Oh.
energy, and I 100% agree.
or do like
Wow.
I'm not homophobic, but and you're just like, no, buddy, let's not. That's just the energy. Bradley Cooper proved me wrong.
You just came in so hot on that take.
Jeremy Renner is also in that group of people. I know he just saved
Oh my
someone, but
gosh.
But wow. Oh. Absolutely
Oh my
Wow.
gosh,
me.
Steph. Oh
Wow.
man.
Okay. That just happened.
Yeah, I mean, there is artistry to doing this thing, and do I do think there's a lot of it being made right now that's maybe like I may be a little bit too old for also at this point. Like I'm looking for stories about middle-aged people falling in love now. And so I'm
Hey.
looking I'm looking back and I'm being like where are Meg and Tom? Where are Meg and Tom? You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's playing crotchety old man now because he's moved on.
Now he's playing Geppetto.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And what I
He's
understand is not a great version of Pinocchio.
it's not. Anyways, I won't disparage the name of Tom Hanks in this household, but you do see a lot of these actors, and especially the actresses like Cameron Diaz, that no longer make film. Renee Zellweger hasn't been in too much lately, and I don't know if it has to do with not valuing the work they put in, as well as like being in Hollywood in the early 2000s and 90s, and all that came with that as well.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Heroin chic, all the like who you're dating and whatnot. Who Misha Barton. Was it Misha Barton? Someone just came out with how she was encouraged to sleep with more famous actors to like boost her credibility and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
And so this like golden age also, or golden age according to it wasn't a great time to be in Hollywood either.
It's funny that you should bring it back to the golden age conversation, because we have gotten so far away from that. But circling back to that, I disagree about the golden age. I think the golden age is late 80s, early 90s.
So like John Hughes era, or
I'm thinking there's no way I'm leaving Dirty Dancing out of the golden age.
Oh,
But as a comedy,
it's such a good one.
Yeah, I mean it does good.
work.
I mean, I'm not trying to harsh your mellow. It's just one of those. So if you said earlier that there are movies that had romantic elements but weren't necessarily comedies, from what I remember of Dirty Dancing, not again funny moments in it, but not
sure
comedy.
Yeah, no, I buy that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go in the same time frame. Coming to America.
Yeah.
Which was a romantic comedy at flat out face value. Yeah. I'm going to America to find my queen. Okay, and it's the misadventures of Eddie Murphy's character going to find his queen, while his father thinks, oh, he's just going off to sow his royal oats before he gets married, and all hijinks ensue again. But that was a movie of its time, most definitely. It was interesting to see Netflix do the sequel to it 30 years later,
right?
Which, to be honest, Coming to America has a soft spot in my heart, because it was like high school for me. Going to see, I think it was like senior year for me when it came out. So there was, it's like, oh, this is like a fun. I can go to the theater down the street, watch it, throw popcorn in my mouth, laugh at Eddie Murphy, and then 30 years later, I get to sit at home, throw popcorn in my mouth, and laugh at Eddie Murphy. And the thing was, there were enough beats. I mean, it was not a perfect movie, but it was fun, and it did capture a bit of nostalgia in some spots from the original movie. And it is just straight up romantic comedy. And the first one actually holds up pretty well still.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some definitely dated references, but for the most part, just as a love story, I think it holds up.
So on that note, would some of the Adam Sandler movies be romantic comedies? Because he's always hooking himself up with hotter, more attractive people that probably would never look his way in real life.
The Wedding Singer.
The Wedding Singer, for sure. I mean, Billy Madison, where he's with the teacher.
50 First Dates.
Oh my gosh,
movie.
50 First Dates is so bad.
So bad.
I'm just thinking that was him with Drew Barrymore again, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, they really like to work together. They're just like friends in real life,
which is great.
So
just the movies aren't.
I think The Wedding Singer is really good. I really
like
it.
That's fair. That's fair. The Wedding Singer is good and it's fun.
Especially with that earring he wears.
Earring.
But according to insider.com, like the 90s were the peak of rom-coms. Not again like the golden, but like it kind of peaked in the 90s and then it went down. And it says like until it lasted, this golden age lasted until the end of the 2000s when the superhero era kicked off. So again, another source saying we've all been kind of alluding to, it just kind of our focus like kind of switched a little bit, I think, especially like those big blockbuster movies at the theater.
Okay, so starting at 2008 with Iron Man, just as a good benchmark. 2 years later, you get another romantic comedy from a comic property, in fact, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yes.
And it's not big
such a good
blockbuster
one.
superhero movie, but it's comic. You could go, well, it's a comic book. We're just gonna put it on the screen. And they also went through a couple of different genres with the different Seven Deadly X's. They kind of play those up in different aspects. You get that in 2010. In 2011, you get, I'm not sure if I call Midnight in Paris a comedy by any stretch of the imagination. For me, I mean, it could be, but for me, it's a little bit of a stretch.
What's funnier than Hemingway drinking himself to death?
What's funnier than that?
Continue on.
Not much.
Yeah, I'm gonna wave off of that.
Yeah, you can just ignore that.
Couple of years later, you get a going back to Sequoia's point about compartmentalizing and finding subgenres. Warm Bodies. So we're going to do a romantic comedy with zombies.
Warm Bodies is hands down my favorite rom-com, and I'm so glad that you brought it up.
I've been waiting for it.
Oh,
Yes.
I love
We
Warm
can have
Bodies.
Warm Bodies in.
I think that yes, the superhero movie has done many different things to different aspects of cinema and the movie going experience. But I think that, as with anything, if you look for it, it's there.
That's
It's, you have to be willing to wade through all of the glitz and glamour of big blockbuster movie and look for something that is a little less in your face in that sense, and a little more down to earth. Whether or not they do a more satirical rom-com, or it's a grounded one, something that's not necessarily well, I push planets around and I can eat all of these things and take no damage from it, blah blah blah. But if you want to use another superhero themed one, there was My Ex Superhero Girlfriend
My super
with Luke
ex-girlfriend.
Wilson. That one, thank you. With Luke Wilson, I think it was, and Cameron
So.
Diaz or Charlize Theron.
I don't know if
Charlize
I've-
Theron, yeah.
Charlize Theron.
I
Okay.
don't know if I've seen that one.
Again, these super hot women with not unattractive guys. but not-
nebbishy guys. You can say it. It's okay.
That's
Guys would not get the second look under any other circumstance.
Sorry,
the
Lily.
patent of the 2000s like rom-com sex comedy is like, and that's, I'm always going to disparage that subgenre because I don't like it. It's not a thing that I enjoy personally. And if I think it contributes to the downfall of the rom-com.
Okay, but look, Steve Carell can get it in 40-Year-Old Virgin. He can get it in Crazy Stupid Love, and he can get it like Salt and Pepper. Steve Carell. Yes.
I mean, good point. Good point.
But yes, no, I agree. Yes, that's such a trope. Yeah, the average guys, which is great. But yeah, with these like Charlize Therons, with these just crazy bombshells that you're just like, oh, that doesn't happen normally. Like
it's the attempt to get men to watch rom-coms.
yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, the Seth Rogenizing of it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is funny
That's a
because
turn
like
Thank you.
which is funny because like I'm thinking back to you had mentioned it earlier, Robert, about Stardust and how like that movie kind of almost does the opposite, where it's a movie called Stardust, and it definitely does play on that whole rom-com and romance story. But then like the thing that like I remember doing whenever I would try to like get my friends to watch it with me, like in high school, like different guy friends and whoever, I'd be like, no, like there's a lot of action in it. There's pirates, there's fighting, there's like so much more than just romance. And yeah, like, I mean, obviously because comedy appeals, you know, to almost everyone, but you know, you almost had to like convince people. It's kind of like the Princess Bride thing where it's like, no, it's not just like, don't let the name fool you. There is action and adventure and giant rats and all of that stuff, you know, you almost have to like, it's just kind of funny how there's movies like that too, where it appeals to a much bigger audience, but because of the stigmas around the romance or even the name, the title, it can be like a turnoff to people. And so you're like, so I don't know. It's just something I just thought of was like, there's also kind of that opposite.
Well, true. And Stardust also had one thing going for it that some of the others didn't. And that was
Robert De Niro in drag.
Two things going for it. Two things going for it in that Stardust was also adapted from a Neil Gaiman graphic novel.
Right.
And, you know, so you had some people go, well, Neil Gaiman wrote it, or he wrote the original story that was the screenplay was adapted from. And people were kind of like, I'm intrigued. And you get, you know, your Robert De Niro. And I think that one of the best things they did was to keep the whole Captain Shakespeare doing the can under wraps was fantastic.
Yes.
Because to just be sitting there going, what is going on here? Then just to have him break out the can, just like, I'm in. But you know, the movie, I mean, but you had so many things going in that movie. I mean, they played up so many different you know, literary, romantic, historical tropes, fantasy tropes, and just kind of went, we're going to shove this all together, put it in a movie, and put it on the screen. And it was not just a romantic comedy, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something you can go back to because it's kind of timeless in the way that it tells the story. Not, you know, unlike some movies that did not age well, looking through 90s. But, you know, Stardust is a movie that you can just kind of go, great. And I think that we showed it to our girls even, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and they were okay with it. And it was just kind of like, they enjoyed the action, the adventure part of it. They questioned some of the things that were happening that we had to explain to them, but for the most part, fine.
Yeah.
It's a catch-all. I love that. I love that kind of movie. Stardust is so good.
Stardust is so good. I do think at the end of the 90s too, you kind of have this like this trope change where the women aren't like these fumbling. It goes to more like independent kick-ass women, because you get things like Miss Congeniality, you get the Reese Witherspoon era where we have Legally Blonde, which I guess I don't even know if you consider that a rom-com other than like a platonic friendship, like, so yeah. But you get Sweet Home Alabama.
Love that one.
Yeah, and so you get these stories where before I think you have these women who are unsure of themselves, or they're the stuck up working women who can't get a man, and instead you have this breakthrough of women who are content with themselves, women who are looking for love, but it's not the most important thing. And I think that trope is continuing on, and something that we value more these days than we did back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
So you do see some good changes. I just watched Heartstoppers on Netflix, which is a TV show again. But it's so good. It's a high school love story between two guys. And it just hits all the cute romantic comedies, like being awkward with your person. And these high schoolers actually look like high schoolers. We don't have abuse going on here.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
you do have these stories coming out that are still romantic, still fun. They're just kind of changing the narrative, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think you look at the writer's room also, because who was writing a lot of those movies in the 60s, 70s, 80s versus who's writing them now. People who actually have, wow, this is a horrible way of putting it, skin in the game, so to speak. Somebody who has a perspective that has not been seen in the writing ever, in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they try to imagine, well, somebody would sound like this, and this is what we get on the screen, which isn't a realistic or accurate in any sense of the word portrayal of what somebody who's trying to figure out their love life and their sexuality even. What would they sound like? Well, if I was writing it would sound like this. Well, you're an idiot. But,
So
your mileage
we're
may
getting
vary.
more diversity from the straight white male writers that we've had in the past. Hopefully.
Hopefully. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about as well that we've started talking about, like Heartstopper, and I was talking about Love, Simon earlier. A lot of that stuff is based on either graphic novels or books. So there's a lot of stuff being like IP being pulled from literature right now that's making pretty good romantic comedy like media. But yeah, I mean, I think that like it's there, it's out there, it's maybe harder to find. Some of the quality might be down just due to like things being made quickly for streaming services. There's maybe a lot, there's more diversity for sure. There could be a lot more, and I see that as like seeing the diversity that we are seeing right now makes me hopeful that we will continue to see more.
Yes, you're here.
Well, and also we're seeing I mean, obviously we're still making movies, like that's never going to stop, but we're also making a lot more TV shows. And so it gives writers and creators more opportunities to like create these characters who you have a little bit more time to develop their story, And so I think a lot of people are turning more to TV shows and stuff. So hopefully, they're finding those rom-com moments, within those shows. Because obviously, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think like one. I don't know if
say that over again. You were breaking up a whole lot, and then Colin will edit it out. Maybe. Sorry, Mar.
I'm sorry. Where was I? Where was I?
At the beginning of what you were just saying?
Yeah.
You were saying there's a lot more TV shows,
like,
so you're trying to think of one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like with TV shows, like I can't really think of one that you could classify as a rom-com specifically. I don't know if there really is one because I don't know if no one would want to watch that. Because I think you need to add in like other elements. You need to add in more drama or action or other things to keep people interested over a series rather than an hour of a movie. You know what I mean? So I think it's harder to find,
What about like my crazy ex-girlfriend? But that turns into like a friendship story.
And it also like that I mean that show was really good, and it also kind of got dark mostly because I mean not that it's dark to talk about mental health, but like she just brought in more of her mental health and being more like open and talking about it, and so it kind of went to like a place that was it wasn't fun and comedic anymore, not that that's a bad thing, but it changed the focus. And so I think we get the rom-com moments throughout TV shows, but we're not getting it like an hour and a half movie anymore. So that's why
my one challenge would be How I Met Your Mother.
What about it?
As close as you get to like a fully romantic comedy television show.
Yeah, I could see that. And even with How I Met Your Father now with that revival.
Oh,
I feel like that falls into like the sex comedies, like the Seth Rogenizing of a romantic TV show. Not that it's Seth Rogen like related, but just that kind of vibe.
Well, what about something? I mean, this goes back much farther than I'd really wanted to, but like Moonlighting. There's one that comes to mind as a romantic comedy TV show, and that was an hour long. I mean, granted, it had the backdrop of the detective agency, but for a solid 2.5 years before they kind of started grinding gears with the writers, that was kind of like the epitome of a hour-long romantic comedy TV show.
Yeah. I mean, you can even another throwback into like The Nanny, where it's an entire series
Sure.
of will they, won't they, and then will it work when they're together?
Cheers
Sweet reference.
became kind of that. There was another one, House Calls, going back, dating myself even more. Wow. With Wayne Rogers and Lynn Redgrave. I mean, the 70s and 80s had quite a few, but you are right. Finding them these days is harder and harder because people have that one niche that they're looking for, and it doesn't seem like the writers are offering, hey, here's an option for you outside of Hallmark movie, Netflix, like we said, or some streaming service bringing something, or that rare and elusive theatrical release.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's good too because I mean, so I was thinking about when I loved rom-coms. It was probably my teenage years, my early 20s. Not that I don't love them now, but that's when I could like sit down and look at like a Matthew McConaughey type and be like, "Oh, that's what I want." Because I had not had the life experience I had. You still kind of wanted that idealized type human. Um and then you get a little bit older and you realize like romance and is part of your life and it's important, but it's not the only part of your life. And so you see that coming through in movies and TV these days where like a lot of these TV shows and movies we mentioned, they have romantic elements, but a lot of them do turn into like platonic friendship stories or into people choosing themselves over love and things like that, which is just as important and relevant as choosing a person to love or choosing like yourself to love. So I think that that's a good change as well.
Yeah.
Although Jane the Virgin might be pretty much a romantic comedy.
Oh,
but there's so much more that happens, and I don't know. I don't know.
Be a religious trauma TV show.
that show is so good.
I love that one.
I do too.
I've cried in that one though. Like it's been so sad before that I've cried while watching that. So like,
yeah, I was gonna
not a
say
rom-com.
I was gonna say like season 2 of Fleabag is a rom-com, but also I sobbed so incredibly hard at the end of it that like I don't know, man.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like they have to throw in these like extra things to keep you interested. That it's
or to make it more realistic.
Yeah, that too. That too.
Relatability.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we want it to be relatable, like just enough that we find interest in it, but not so much that it's like, whoa, this is a little too close to home. Like we want it to be like fun and like because we
want them to end up together.
Well, and also like movies and TV shows, like media in general, like it's kind of our quote unquote escape from reality, right? And so we want it to still be entertaining. But again, there's a fine line.
Yeah.
True.
So I guess, do we think that rom-coms have fallen, or do we think they're still going strong? We just got to look for them harder and be more open to, I guess, the general idea of what a romantic comedy is these days.
Is this
I was looking for your guys' thoughts and feelings on that.
Oh wait, we're supposed to answer that.
Yeah. And that's the end. Goodbye.
I say kind of yes to both. Like I think in a way that they have died, but at the same time, like it's almost like they've been reborn. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that so creepily, but that's kind of, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's been reborn a little bit, especially with streaming and the availability and everything. Like there's just so much more to be had. So I think it's coming back, or it's been back. It's just growing up still.
Yeah, I would sort of agree with that. I think there was like, a wave that crested and then fell, and then we're gonna have another wave. And my hope is that wave looks a lot more diverse than the first wave, which would be really great. I think we were talking a lot about too, like these like very specific actors that you can pick out from sort of different ages of rom-coms, different decades of rom-coms. We don't really have that right now either. I feel like there's still this space for like iconic rom-com actors to emerge and iconic rom-com directors to emerge. And there's more opportunity than ever because there's 700 streaming services and they're all trying 700 movies. So like
Mhm.
hopefully at this point this is where we ramp up again. I do think there has been like a crest and a fall, but I wouldn't call it I wouldn't, say it's like anything detrimental. It's something that sort of had to happen to maybe make something better.
And I would say that it's kind of a little column A and a little column B. So it have things fallen off a bit? Sure. Is it, are we seeing another crest? Yes. Are we seeing something where we have to look a little differently at what we're looking for? Because I think that, what we're looking for now as romantic comedy may not be what we were looking for 10, 15 years ago in a romantic comedy. We may want to see something that's a little more life relatable of like, oh, hey, you know, I've been in a similar situation, if not the exact same situation, but you don't necessarily need the antics of a high school kid running around tripping over themselves trying to get the boy or the girl by the end of the movie. So I think that it's an amalgamation of all of those things.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Um, I would love to see more, but I think you do have to have more than just the the old school tropes that we have been used to. Um, and I think that that's good. I think it shows us um, uh, evolving in a way than just yeah, like the regular high school hijinks. So I'm excited, yeah, to check out a lot of the movies that everyone has talked about and I haven't gone. And I don't think that I've been searching for it because there's so much other big blockbuster stuff that does get pushed to the side um a lot. So, um I also before we end want to know everyone's guilty pleasure rom-com that you do have to kind of like we're just going to watch this and enjoy it and not think about it too hard.
How do you pick one?
That's
That's fair. You can mention more than one, but not more than 3.
Ugh.
I have strict rules up in this podcast.
I'll go first. I'm just looking at my list because like I know there's more on to this like even than the list that I made, but 13 going on 30 is definitely one of my like nearest and dearest to my hearts, mostly because the year it came out I turned 13. So I was like, oh, this is me. Anyway, and then How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That one, I can quote that one so like almost too much. And I think I still quote it to this day. And I get weird looks from people and I'm like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And I think another, I don't know, maybe those are my only 2 for now.
Yeah, I mean, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was my favorite movie at a certain point in my life, and I like know how hugely problematic it is. I understand that as an adult.
Yes.
Oh man, this is a hard one. I think White Christmas is my favorite Christmas movie and also like hugely, hugely, hugely problematic. But I think that like the one for me is She's All That. I really love that movie. And it is really bad, and I really like it.
Oh, little Freddie Prince. And now he's
know.
defending his wife from all the Buffy stuff that she had to deal with. So look, everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Stardust for one.
Yes.
I'm going to stay in the same year with Enchanted. And I'm not sure what my third would be, to be honest. I mean, I was a latecomer to Crazy Rich Asians, but I quite enjoyed it after we finally got around to watching it. So
Such a
I
good
may throw
one.
that in the number 3
one.
spot.
Who's the main lead in that? Because he is
Henry Golding.
so fine. Yes,
Oh, I just thought of my third one. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Steph.
go for it. I was just talking about how hot he was. I'm
Oh.
justifying someone, so
I thought you were
going
gonna move on to your list. She's the Man.
Oh yes.
Yes.
That one I can quote word for word the
Yes.
entire movie, and I rewatched. I don't even know how many times I've watched that movie. It's like easily in my top 5.
It's so
I love that movie.
I love it. It's so good.
I will love 10 Things I Hate About You till the day I die. Also,
Love
when
that
I was
one.
younger, someone told me I look like Julia Stiles. So, like, anything Julia Stiles does. Oh, speaking of a Julia Stiles, I don't know if it's a rom-com, but Save the Last Dance.
Not a rom-com.
Okay, fine. It's
It's too sad.
It's too sad.
That's too sad.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
So sad and so hugely problematic.
40 Days and 40 Nights, also horrible and very problematic.
Never seen that one.
Josh Hartnett
yeah.
and
Josh Hartnett.
the chick from Knight's Tale. He gives up sex for Lent. So just yeah. And then The Holiday.
Oh, I love The Holiday.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. The Holiday is great. And I don't know what it is about, but
That's Nancy Myers, baby.
yes. Jack Black in that is adorable. Yeah, love
I
it.
love Jack Black in that movie.
He's like the ideal man. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people might not agree with that.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I'd be so sad if anything bad like ever came out, if you just found out he was a horrible human being. And
I don't want to know. I don't want to know about
no, let's just keep our Jack Black fantasies alive. Anyways, I appreciate all of you guys for joining us for this podcast tonight. Sequoia, tell us where everyone can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on either of my shows. The Harry Potter fan fiction show is called Fanatical Fics and Where to Find Them. And that is on all podcasting platforms or at Fanatical Fics on social media. You can find But Make It Scary, the most recent episode being She's All That. And then today, this comes out on Valentine's Day, right?
Yes.
Today releases the Valentine's Day special, which I do every year, where we flip the script and we take a horror movie and make it into a rom-com.
Oh my gosh,
we
yes.
did Scream,
and
it's impeccable. So I would recommend that. That show is called But Make It Scary. The special is called But Make It Lovely, and you can find that on any podcasting platform or at But Make It Scary on social media. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone check out her stuff because she is so good at what she does.
Thank you.
Robert, give us a plug for your Instagram because I feel like it needs to get more love.
Well, thank you very much. It is Action Figure Theater, where I have for the past 6.5 years done a daily action figure and coffee post. And it's theater with an R-E, not an E-R. And hopefully to be seen more often around Age of Geek.
Yes.
It's delightful. You guys definitely should check it out.
You're so creative. I love peeking on those every day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
You can find Age of Geek on all the social media sites as well. We'd love for everyone to join our community, our Discord community. So that's in the link is in the show notes for that. So
Yes, it will be.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and have a great rest of. I never know the best way to sign out because who the heck knows when you're listening to this.
Bye.
So, thank you. Have a good day. Have a good life.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.